Well, are you obsessed? Not possessed, that's different, just. Well, this is a topic that I've actually touched on before in a video, and it may be spoiling your photography, and it really doesn't need to. So here's 9 obsessions that you really don't need to obsess about. Number 1, noise. Well, noise, don't you just hate noise? Can you shut up out there? Well, with film, noise used to be called grain, and grain used to kick in around 400 ISO. But now, if it kicks in at 12,400 ISO, we think we need a new camera. Well, digital has made us want to achieve the cleanest images possible, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can get obsessed with that. Noise in your images is acceptable, and noise or grain can actually add atmosphere, especially in black and white. And when I am shooting black and white, I will actually add some grain to my images just to increase that atmosphere and also cover up any noise there is in the image from using high ISOs. So yes, use the lowest ISOs you can, the lowest ISOs your camera has. But if you're hand holding or shooting in low light, then embrace those ISOs, embrace that noise. I won't tell you again, will you keep it down? Next up, image quality. Well, back in the days of film, this wasn't such an obsession. It was required, it was sought after. Just look how medium format cameras dominated high-end photography. But with digital, it's become a bit more of an obsession. Viewing your pictures at 100% on screen has become an obsession. Pixel peeping, and who's guilty of that one? But who actually sees your pictures this close up? Well, you and only you. No one else does. At normal viewing distances, anybody else will only see it around 50 to 60% magnification. Even poor quality images with cheap lenses will look great at that distance. Next, depth of field. Well, again, back with shooting with film, this wasn't such an obsession. Were photographers a bit more laid back then? Well, medium format almost went against depth of field. You battled to get depth of field with these size cameras, even more so with large format. There was no pixel peaking back then, and no focus stacking either. If your image was slightly soft in the background, that wasn't a failure, and it still isn't. So work with your ideal apertures, work with your focusing, your hyperfocal focusing 1/3 of the way in, but don't obsess. Again, at normal viewing distances, you really can't tell. And if you have your pictures on display on a wall or even in a gallery, you may see someone viewing your images with their nose almost touching the glass. They're idiots. Kick them out, they're idiots. Number 4, sharpness. And continuing with this, there's a saying by a very famous photographer called Henry Cartier-Bresson that said, sharpness is a bourgeois concept. I think that's how you say it, I think that's how you pronounce it. Let me just check. Computer, sharpness is a bourgeois concept. Yeah, thought so. So sharpness is
bourgeois.
Okay, thank you very much. Sharpness is
bourgeois.
Thank you. We've got it now. We're okay. Thank you.
Bourgeois.
Anyway, what this means is that sharpness is slightly overrated. All your images don't have to be sharp. Of course, I don't mean go out and shake your camera around. Aim to get your images pin sharp, but they can also be creative. I sometimes use cameras for creativity, such as the Holga or pinhole cameras that definitely aren't sharp. Some of my best images have come from the Holga camera. Well, introducing blur or a lack of sharpness is a no-no for some people. They'll go to great lengths not to have it in their picture. But don't obsess. Use it. Use blur for creativity and impact. If the wind is blowing, let it blow the elements in your landscape. Give the images impact with movement and blur. You can move your camera during exposure if you really want to get creative. But sharpness or a lack of sharpness can even come from using cheaper lenses. If you can't afford top-end lenses, don't worry about it. Again, at normal viewing distances, you won't be able to tell if you've used a cheap lens or an L-class lens. You just can't see it. So don't obsess, and just to make the most of what you have. Number 5, shadows. Now back with film. God, I feel old, all this talk about film. I'm only 29. Now who remembers Fuji Velvia? Beautiful film, wonderful film, but very contrasty and the shadows blocked up like nobody's business. But now there's an obsession with shadow detail. All the details in the highlights and all the details in the shadows. And the worst case of this is HDR photography. But chill out people, shadows are meant to be shadows. While shadows add depth and they also add contrast, and they help keep your images looking natural. And that's one thing that's getting lost with digital photography, natural looking images. And people, please leave that saturation slider alone. Damn. Number 6, camera gear. Now this isn't about G.A.S syndrome here, G.A.S being gear acquisition syndrome. This is about having too much gear. Taking every camera, every lens when you go out on a photo shoot. It's overkill and it's killing your creativity as it gives you too much to think about. So just pick one camera, one lens and go out with that instead. That's how you'll improve your photography, not having a bag full of lenses. Number 7, getting it wrong. Well, experimenting is all about the odds. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. And photography is all about experimenting. Experimenting with ideas, with subjects, with different compositions. But don't expect to get it right every time. Be prepared for failure. Accept failure. Don't be afraid of failure. But you give it a go and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. But you don't know until you try. Try different ideas. Have fun with your photography. Nobody's judging you, remember. Except yourself maybe. Number 8, not being good enough. Well, social media is a killer for this one. You have Twitter, you have Flickr, you have Instagram, all good places to put your images up for display and open for praise or criticism. And all that is generally good, so don't be afraid to put your work up online. Don't be afraid that your work isn't good enough. The photography is a learning process, and we're all, even though I hate this term, on a journey of discovery and learning, and we're all on our own photography journey. So some photographers are better than others, but we're all on our own little journey, learning as we go along. So don't obsess about not being good enough. Put your pictures up online, take the critiques, take it with a pinch of salt, but hopefully learn from the process at the same time. And finally, number 9, YouTube. Now I'm going to stick my neck out on this one, but hands up anybody who uses YouTube as an excuse not to go out and go and do their own photography. Anybody? Who's doing their own photography only by watching others do theirs? Who's obsessed with YouTube? So I think that for every video you watch on YouTube, you should use that as an incentive to go out and do your own photography. Use that feature or idea that was in that video as inspiration and to help improve your own photography. There's dozens of photography YouTube channels out there, apparently, but don't just sit there and watch dozens of them and not go out and do your own photography instead. And anyway, what are you doing watching all these other channels anyway? Where's the loyalty? So the bottom line is, don't obsess. Relax and enjoy your photography. Photography is a creative process, and that creative process comes in many forms. So stop obsessing and get up and get out. Don't watch another YouTube video, not even one of mine.